Star copies all. Go ahead. Message to observer. Alpha 3 rounds. AT delay in effect. 3 guns. Bravo 2 rounds. 2 guns. Smoke on effect.
What's going on, guys? This is Andrew. Another video with the Options Millionaire educational series. So as the popularity of the Discord server grows higher and higher, as the popularity of overall investing, just the investing world grows higher, and then of course the Reddit community is growing up, a lot of people start bringing this question up more and more and more, especially as they start getting more profitable, they start learning how to make more money. And that question is, should I quit my job and start trading full time? And honestly, I don't have a good answer for you. It could be yes, it could be no. Honestly, it depends. It depends on the type of person you are. It depends on several different financial decisions. It depends on your financial situation. It depends on a lot of things. And today we're going to go over all the different things that you can round up, put in the pot, boil it down, and figure out if it's the right decision for you to quit your job and trade full time. I'm going to break it down into two different categories on which you can place your decisions. One is financial. The second is psychological. In my opinion, psychological has greater weight than financial. Having said that, we're going to start out with financial. Let's get into it. First on the list under the financial category would be consumer debt. You do have to address your consumer debt. If you have a lot of consumer debt, student loans, car loans, credit card debt, especially credit card debt, in my opinion, you do not need to be entertaining the thought of day trading full time. It's just way, way too much risk. Just like in investing, accounting for risk, which is a huge tenet of my system, you need to account for risk in your personal life and your financial life. And if you have a lot of consumer debt and you are considering day trading full time, that is, in my opinion, too much risk. Okay, so you address the consumer debt. Maybe you have no consumer debt, and maybe you've worked hard and paid it off. Now, what's the second step? The second step is actually analyzing your system. So you've been trading for a little bit, and this is something you want to do full time. How long have you been trading? What's your track record like? What's your win rate? What's your average win size? Because as important as win rate is, which I think it's very important, what's your win size like? Are you only averaging 1% to 2% wins because you're trying to manufacture a high win rate and pat yourself on the back? Or do you have a legit good system with a 91% win rate on which you're getting consistent 10, 15, 20% wins? On top of that, what's your average loss? Do you have a habit of taking 30, 40% losses a week? At least 40% loss a week? If you do, then you need to consider trimming that up a little bit before you consider doing this full time. All right, so you have a pretty good system. Maybe you've got a good win rate and you're starting to bring in some decent money consistently. Thirdly, and this one I may catch some heat from, but do not consider any trade in 2020 into your decision. 2020 was nuts. It was unprecedented bull market. A monkey with a hammer and a banana smashing keys on his keyboard could have made money in 2020. So do not consider 2020 into your decision on whether or not you want to do this full time. And last, certainly not least, in the financial category. Now, I will say there's a whole bunch of financial considerations, more than what this list contains, but I want to hit on just the big overbroad stuff that a lot of people will really kind of fit into the category. So, and last but not least, expenses. Do you have higher than normal expenses? And when I mean by normal, do you have larger than average medical expenses? Do you have a medical condition like a type 1 diabetes, like my mother has, that requires you to outflow a lot of money every month that a normal average American probably wouldn't have? Whatever it may be, medical expenses. Do you have an elderly parent that you need to care for that raises your monthly expenses? Whatever it may be, outside of the normal budgeting expense needs, do you have an additional expense that you need to account for that are outside the average American? That's something you need to account for. Okay, so you've done all the financial analysis. You've gone over your expenses. You figure out what your income is. You figured out that your system actually does work and you're not doing too bad. Now the next thing is the psychological, which in my opinion is the most important. It's more important than the financial in my opinion. The psychological aspect, the emotional side of trading, reigns king, in my opinion. If you are not the type of person that can handle things, then it's not for you. So, getting into the psychological nature of things, the first one, which I think is a question you need to ask yourself, it's a question I ask myself all the time. Do you like your career or do you hate your career? The one that you're currently in, the one that you're considering leaving to go trade full time. Do you like your career or do you hate your career? Does your career bring you too much stress? Does your career bring you, as it's something you actually like doing? You like waking up and going to your career? Do you like your career, but it's keeping you away from your family at egregious amount of time? And that's something you definitely need to consider, because the stress side of things, the stress reduction does need to come into play. It's not all financial. You do need to account for quality of life. Now, me personally, I love my career. I love what I do. I love waking up, serving my country. I have the coolest non-entrepreneurial job in the world. If you love waking up in the morning and going in and doing what you're doing, and you could still trade, that's something you need to consider. Giving up a career is very daunting to think about. And if it's something you actually enjoy doing, it's even more daunting because, hey, man, you work that hard. You have a career. Hopefully you're bringing home a decent wage. It's something you actually enjoy doing, which is rare in this day and age. Most people loathe their careers, loathe their jobs. But if you actually enjoy your job, that's one thing. Now, if you hate your job, maybe you're willing to take a little more risk. Maybe you're willing to take a little cut in pay in order to leave that job and increase your quality of life, which I have no qualms with. Increasing your quality of life, spending more time with your family is the name of the game, in my opinion. So, number 2 under the psychological list, do you have a significant other with kids, or are you single? Obviously, if you're single with no kids and young, you could take a little more risk. If you've got a family and kids to provide for, then that's a little more risk. And that's something you may or not want to take on in terms of additional risk and additional stress. Because with the psychological aspect, you are going to be really counting those pennies. Every time you take a loss, you're like, oh man, is that going to go against my monthly income? Is that going to go against my expenses? Am I going to be able to make rent? Am I going to be able to pay my mortgage? Am I going to be able to face my wife this afternoon, or my husband, or my boyfriend, or my girlfriend, and tell them that I lost this money? So on and so forth, which leads me to my third question that you need to ask yourself under the psychological category, and that is, are you someone that doesn't handle stress well or unforeseen negative events? Do you get depressed very easily? That is something you definitely need to ask yourself, and that's the part of being honest with yourself in the psychological aspect. Okay, so that was some heavy stuff. I know to talk about the psychological stuff, but we've been over the big psychological stuff. We've been over the financial stuff. Say you have addressed all of that. You're ready to start taking steps to consider if this is something you want to do. The first thing you do, and I would recommend, is that if it's possible, instead of quitting your job, take a sabbatical from your job. Take some time off. If it's possible, take some time off. Take a sabbatical, a few months, to figure out if you can do this full time without first committing to a full quit resignation of your job. Secondly, under these recommendations there's a reason why only a small percentage of people do this and do this well enough to consider this income. And that's because it's very difficult. I'm not saying you can't be successful, but just be honest with yourself. Look yourself in the mirror and tell you, this is not easy. This is very difficult to do this as an income. It's difficult to do this successfully. Otherwise, everybody would do it. So have your conversation with yourself and have realistic expectations. And I promise you, it'll go far. Thirdly, and lastly, is break your income requirements down to a daily rate. That's what I did. And here, let's go over an example. I made a little Excel sheet just like this to go over basically just a very, very elementary breakdown of what you can do to show your expenses. So first, you've got your yearly salary. Let's say you make $60,000 a year. Now, there are 261 working days in a year, and that's broken down. 60,000 divided by 12 is 5,000 monthly. 60,000 divided by 261 working days, because you only can do working days in the stock market. You have to bring in $229 a day and 89 cents to hit that $60,000 year goal. Now, that's not including health insurance. You have to account for everything you need to pay for that comes out of your check. Now, this is not all your expenses. This is just your payroll expenditures that usually come out. There's more stuff, but these are just the big three. Income. Then you've got your health insurance cost. In the United States in 2020, the average monthly health care cost was $495. That comes out to $7,128 a year, and then $27.31 a day. Retirement, you do have to consider, and this is the biggest thing people miss. They forget that they have to fund their retirement still. You still have to consider your future. The purpose of my day trading account is to fund my long-term real estate, to fund my long-term stock portfolio. So retirement, I considered 15%, because I always recommend maxing out 15% of your income going into your long-term investments. 15% of 60,000 is 9,000. Broken down to a monthly rate of $750, broken down to a daily rate is $34.48. My total daily income goal needs to be $291.68. That's Monday through Friday. And that doesn't even take into account holidays. So it might be a touch higher than that. This is just a very basic elementary example, but that is something you need to do. You need to take that $291.68 rate, put it on a sticky note, and paste it right above your screen. You look at it every single day. And that's what you need to look at. If you do better than some days, cool. If you do worse than some days, cool. You can focus on the other days that you do better on. And that's just a good analytical idea to show what goal you need to be looking at. So there you have it, guys. Just a couple of recommendations from my point of view on doing this for almost a decade on whether or not you should be trading full time. I'm not going to say no. I'm not going to say yes. I'm just going to give you a few of my ideas, whether you can analyze whether or not this is what you want to do. It's not an easy decision. It's not something to be taken lightly. And you need to really consider all the factors, psychological and financial, before doing so. That's my only really recommendation. Anyways, that is all I got, guys. That is a great video on whether or not you should be trading full time. If you are new to the channel, please like and subscribe to this video. Go over and join the Discord. I put a link down in the description. A wealth of information. We've had a fantastic July. Man, we've blown it out of the water. I've made more money in July than I ever have in this Discord. So it's been awesome growing and learning with y'all. And I hope y'all were able to get some knowledge and learn how to do this a lot more and make a lot more money. You can email me anytime at optionsmillionaire2020@gmail.com if you have any questions. Of course, DM me in the Discord. Like and subscribe to the channel so you get notifications for all educational content as well as my live streams. I do live stream every Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And then I live stream on the Patreon chat every single day, Monday through Friday. So it's a good something to take advantage if you do want to come over and join the Patreon. Anyway, I'm Andrew, Options Millionaire. Thank you all for being here, taking the time out of your day to watch this video, learn a little more something about how this works. Until next time, I'll see y'all. I'm out of here.